This next conversation we're about to have does contain some rather upsetting detail of sexual violence against children. We're talking about a case that's playing out in the High Court in Gauteng, here in Johannesburg, where the court has heard how Gerhard Ackerman, who's accused of running a child sex abuse ring, had pictures and videos of children being sexually abused on his cell phone and laptop. The material reportedly includes images of a 6-month-old infant also being abused. Ackerman told the court that he ran a legitimate massage parlor where he did not employ people younger than 16 years old. But there have been reports where he in fact admitted in court that the massages given at that parlor came with, quote, happy endings. As far as the images are concerned, he did not deny that they were there, but said that he did not know that they were there and were perhaps watched by someone else. Let's talk more about this with the Soul City Institute CEO, Phinah Kodisang. A very good evening to you, Phinah. Good to speak to you. Once again, you and I have spoken about this trial since the beginning, and the details are more upsetting with each hearing.
Yeah, and I think we are beyond shocked right now. Each time we hear something come out of this case, all we can say is the failure of the system to act swiftly, but to also be precise and consistent in implementing the laws, because we do have the law, Tembekile. We don't have a lack of laws in our country. We have, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Bill and Chapter 6 of this bill, which was signed into law last year by our president. Chapter 6 of the bill is set out to look at prevention of sex crimes, particularly pedophilia. But we see a pedophile who's running amok, who has a chance, to come and tell horrific stories, but we don't see how the courts are moving swiftly, because he admitted the video evidence is there. Even a 6-month baby is being abused, molested in this manner, and we still want to sit and listen to this person give their side of the story. I believe we need to look into the gaps in our law, because they give room for perpetrators, and I think it makes South Africa a haven for perpetrators when our laws are not strict, and the implementation of these laws is not, strict enough to ensure that once we have the evidence, we don't even need to go all the way with you in terms of giving you more days in court. But the evidence will speak for itself, and we will deal with you decisively. So I think it's a campaign that we need to look at. Otherwise, this is challenging the laws we have in our country. Child protection laws are weakened by instances like this, where evidence is there, but we are not acting on the evidence. We are still dragging the case out, and it's dragging and it's dragging. And the victims in this instance, we are not even considering them in this instance, because you can imagine the longer it drags, the more hurt, the more trauma it causes for the victims and their families. So I really, want to appeal that this case needs to be expedited, and we need to get to the day where this person is removed completely from society, and they get to be sentenced and spend the rest of their lives in jail for causing so many children so much pain.
So that speaks to sentencing, basically making people, quote unquote, pay, or justice being meted out in a case where these children have been sexually abused, right? But how do you stop something such as the storing of child pornography? I mean, in this case, Ackerman is said to have had 200 images classified as child pornography. That was on his cell phone alone. A further 350 images and videos were found in his laptop. So in that case, when you consider how much stuff people can store on their phone undetected, how do we even begin to root that out?
Yeah, and now it's going to be worse, because we have POPI Act, which also seeks to protect the privacy of people's information, the privacy of their gadgets and all that. So we need to look at all those things, Tembekile, in how even we can work with the network companies. We can work with IT specialists, people who, I'm sure there's a way, think about it. When you talk to somebody about buying a car, you see on your algorithm cars being advertised, especially if you mention even the brand, you will see those brands being advertised on your timeline. the algorithm, Facebook and other marketing people are able to sort of sense. I don't know how they do it. So there's a way we can do it, but I just don't think we have applied ourselves and our minds to looking at solutions in that way. We need to look at the laws that protect privacy of information and how they actually can cause more damage, because people like Ackerman will then use the Poppy Act and use the Papaya and all these other acts to their advantage. So we need to look into different laws, into different policies, and how all of these either help us prevent or perpetuate more violations.
And his credibility as a witness has come into question, especially on the issue of these horrific images of children basically being sexually assaulted. First, he denied knowledge of the images. Then later, when pressed by the prosecutor, said, well, he knew of some of the images but didn't know there were so many. How reliable then is his evidence? How can he be trusted to be telling the truth about any of the multiple accounts that he's facing in court currently?
He's obviously not trying to implicate himself. Criminals will do that. They will, play victim. He will say this today, tomorrow say something else, because he knows that if the evidence is not, remember our law also, it looks at the evidence. If the evidence is not convincing, and I don't know the term that they use in the law, but the evidence must be convincing enough to leave no room for doubt. So he's trying to create room for doubt so that he can then get away with his crimes. And remember, his friend, his ally was the judge. So I'm sure these people know exactly how to get away with this crime that they did. They know how to play the law, and they know how to play the game such that at the end of the day, we are left with wondering whether what he's saying is true or it's not true, but the evidence speaks for itself. I think we need to work on what we see, the evidence that does not lie. It's there, it's videos, they are there, it doesn't lie. He can contradict himself all he wants, but what are the videos showing us?
And he then goes on to say in some of the testimony, just lastly, Phinah, just to get your reaction, where he says, or he claims at least, that the videos may have in fact been put there or downloaded or whatever the case might have been by one of the workers at his massage parlor. Now, that would then put blame on what the state has been saying are basically minors to begin with, who were employed at this massage parlor, but basically were themselves, to an extent, sex slaves who would themselves be sold to adult men at the very premises.
Yeah. And he's hiding behind that legitimate business. Again, now that these things are exposed, what are we doing? Have we even gone to close that same massage parlor? If it was operating, fronting as a massage parlor. If we are not going to immediately act to make sure that we close any other opportunity that might come from this place that he was operating in, and even his networks. If we don't look at the database of the clients that came to that massage parlor, look into them as potential perpetrators as well. If we're not going to look into the whole thing, we are also missing out on an opportunity to close a ring, a network of people who are out there violating children. So I think it's up to the Ministry of Police how they handle this case and how they deal with it in such a way that it sets an example and a tone that says there's a zero tolerance to this behavior, and there's not going to be any room for anyone, who will come after this case to do what he's doing right now. But I can tell you, I don't have confidence. From what I'm seeing, the gaps that, I'm already seeing, I think he won't even get the maximum sentence.
Phinah Kodisang, good to speak to you, CEO of the Soul City Institute.